All right, bye week went well for us. We spent the whole time, obviously getting ready for the Boise State game, and it's gonna be a fun game. A sold out atmosphere already, and going against one of the best players in the country. So we know we got things we got to improve on. Starts with ourselves, and just gearing up for this big game. So let's go with some questions.
Jason Walker with Cash Valley Daily. Walk us through the things you were trying to work on specifically in the bye week to try and prepare for this game the rest of the season.
Yeah, the big thing was just get healthy. We got a bunch of guys that are banged up and shoulders and things like that after the first couple games. So getting back to full force, which is obviously going to be needed for this week. But then it's just getting back to do what we do and paying attention to the small details, right? We kind of talked about that in the past. We do things really well sometimes, but it's not all the time thing. So now it's just a consistency deal, and that was our major focus.
Real quick follow up on that, Coach. Any players you said mentioned getting healthier? Are there any players you're expecting to get back this week?
Still waiting. Waiting for the final. Probably on Thursday, we'll decide on who's potentially could be back. We got a couple of O linemen that are getting close, and things of that nature. So I'll get that info for you later on in the week.
Sideline, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. Just curious, how much time have you spent game planning for Ashton Genty, watching film on him already?
Yeah, we did 3 practices last week, as well as a practice yesterday. So it's obviously the main focus. He's averaging over 10 yards a carry, versus the schedule that they've been playing. That's pretty impressive. So he's the number one back in the country right now. It looks like so he's going to have our full attention, and we know we got to be able to contain him. The problem is, you watch the Washington State game, they fit every single play perfectly, and he rushed for 280 yards just off missed tackles. So being able to get this guy down, it's more so about effort to the ball, get as many hats around him. That way, if he does break one, we have somebody there.
Drylene, also wanted to ask you, Boise State has 20 sacks on the season. They're averaging 5 a game. What makes their pass rush so effective?
Well, I think they play the run so well, and now teams are forced to throw it. And when you're forced to throw it because you can't run the ball, then you can really tee off. Their front seven is probably as good as it gets in college football on how they play the run and how that transitions to their pass rush. So I think they had 7 sacks last week versus Washington State. So we got to make sure, one, that we can establish our running game, keep them playing honest, and then two, when we do throw, we get the ball out on time and don't hold and don't give those guys on the edge time to work on our tackles.
Eric Franson with 1069 The Fan. Hey, can you talk about the use of tablets on the sidelines and how that helps you guys make adjustments during the game?
Yeah, the big thing it does, it used to be getting info from the box, getting info from your players. Players used to be all the time. You'd ask them if they're in a gap, they'd tell you yes, and you find out on Sunday that was not true, right? So you get real time data very fast and very quickly. So it takes a lot out of it as far as what the coaches do in the box. It's more so how fast you can adjust sitting on the sidelines as you watch the plays. So it's an awesome deal. It does take a little bit away from the game, I think. NFL is just pictures. At college, we get videos, but just something that we're continuing to roll with and helps you adjust live faster.
Coach Jason Walker again. You've had several games where you start fast and then don't finish as strong. Has there been anything you've done during the bye week to kind of address that? Maybe identify what's going on there. Just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, Jason, I think you're spot on. And it's more so just like critical moments. Right now we're just stopping ourselves when it's a big play, whether it's a false start penalty, right, or whether it's just not being in the right spot. You're supposed to be on defense or not doing your technique. So we talked about one, just relaxing. Like, listen, we have nothing to lose, guys. We need to make sure we cut it loose out there, have fun, and play with great intensity. Because when we're loose and rolling, we're just about as good as anybody in the country, right? You saw opening quarter versus Utah, same thing last or 2 weeks ago versus Temple. But then when we tighten up, we just play too stressed. So it's just getting the message across that relax, do your job, go have fun, right? And there's no reason to tense up in a big moment. When it's time, you'll come and you'll make your play.
ask as well about, you have a lot of improvements to try and make on defense, obviously. In what ways is Boise State going to test some of those improvements you're trying to make on the defensive side?
Well, the big thing that they do is they stick with their game plan. They have a couple formations they like to attack you at each week, so we won't know exactly what their plan is until about the halfway through the first quarter or so. But they do a good job of trying to scheme you up. So you have to make tough tackles on one of the best tailbacks in the country. So our huge vocal point this week has been collapsing the box, keeping everything in tight quarters. That way, when we are having our one-on-one chance, we have a higher chance of making it because it's not a hard tackle, right? We tell our guys all the time here, we're about easy tackles, and that starts with alignment, fundamentals, being able to box things in tight circumstances. So when a backhand guy has to make a play, he has a chance to make an easier tackle. So that's what they do. They create long edges. They make your corners make tackles. They make everybody right who more coverage guys make plays on this tailback. So they do. Hats off to their scheme. Now it's just about us how we can contain him and how we can make things easy on us.
Eileen, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal again. You've had some struggles kind of containing opposing tight ends the last couple of weeks. Boise State has a veteran tight end who's had some big games this year. What adjustments have you made during the bye week to maybe limit some of those opportunities in the tight end catch game?
Yeah, need our outside linebackers to get hands on those guys. They do a good job. They run a lot of tight end hides, a lot of plays to draw your attention going somewhere else, and then they get a guy sneaking out the backside on a wheel and things of that nature. So a lot of theirs they're just so well timed by the play caller. It puts those guys in position. So we got to make sure our guys up front are getting hands on the tight ends and make sure they don't have any free releases because they do a good job, right? They do a good job getting open, and when they do, they finish and make the plays.
Jason Walker again. You've had some inconsistency, I guess, with the passing game. Sometimes work really well. Sometimes you have some turnovers. Does that tie back to you mentioned about playing stressed or playing tight, or is there something specific to the passing game that's kind of causing that inconsistency?
No, I mean our starting quarterback was out 2.5 weeks, right? And then when he finally gets back, he probably plays his first full game in 2 years. So we just need reps. But I think you're spot on, Jason. When we're clicking the balls out on time, which it needs to be this week, right, and we're getting the ball distributed to our playmakers, we look really good. If we start holding the ball a little bit and forcing throws, right, that's when we play a little bit too robotic, I think, at quarterback. And Spencer would be the first one to admit that. So it's just keeping things on time, keeping him relaxed, just like what you're referring to on critical moments, right, and then just do what the defense gives us.
Derek Franson once again. If you could talk about the defense for Boise State, I know a lot of attention is usually on their offense, but this is still a pretty physical defense that's given themselves a lot of chances defensively in their games.
They do a good job with their starting with their D line and their edge guys all the way to their inside backers. So they have a great game plan. They have solid run fits where they fit very fast. And then they win their one-on-ones in the blocking scheme. I think they do a great job on block destruction. That allows them to play with sometimes a lighter box and being able to play more pass coverage stuff on mixed downs. So we're going to have our hands full for sure. I think offense has a good game plan so far, and being able to get Razul rolling is going to be a huge part of this thing. Everyone talks about Boise State tailback like they should, and he's probably the best tailback in the country, but we love ours here too, and we need him to have a big game for us.
Coach, these next couple of games have a maybe bigger impact on morale? Because obviously it's beginning of conference play, non-conference play mostly over at this point. How big are these next two games against Boise State and UNLV?
Yeah, I think confidence is the number one thing. It's hard to have confidence when you're not winning at the level that we need to be winning at right now. So it's how to create that in practice to give our guys a spark. Obviously, the schedule is what it is. We're going to end up playing probably 4 ranked teams in the first 6 games. So I don't know when the last times that happened. But at the end of the day, it's still about us, right? Every single one of our games, other than the SC, we've been up, we've been moving, we've been looking really good. Now it's just finishing, right? And being able to instill that mindset in our players of having, one, the confidence to win, but 2, when it is time, right, to finish and get off the field with a W.
This is Jason Walker with Cache Valley Daily. How would you assess where the team is right now? your thoughts on the first few games of the season.
Yeah, I think it is kind of cool the way our schedule is set up to where, we go 4 games a bye, 4 weeks in a bye. So we can really, take a step back, look at the season thus far. I think I'll just speak offensively, to our side of the ball. Obviously, our record is not what we want. It's not where we expect it to be. It's not what we're capable of, but it's what we earned. And I think offensively, the main thing for us is that we have put on tape kind of week after week that we can move the ball really well. When things are good, things are really good. But we have lacked the consistency through 4 games to achieve the results that we want. And that's been a huge focus over this bye week. And the good news for us is that the majority of the season is still in front of us. All of Mountain West plays in front of us. And yeah, we're excited to get back out there.
I'm gonna ask a follow up for you. How much do you feel like your injury early on, maybe I don't know if I want to use the word derail, that may be too extreme, but how much did that impact your season so far? Maybe some of the inconsistencies at Temple. Just tell us about that. The injury, as far as its impact on your season so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, we haven't had a chance to have continuity, myself and the offense. I think that there was definitely some plays, in the Temple game that I would like back and that I would attribute to really playing my first full game in almost 2 years. But no one really cares. Unfortunately, it's right. Like I missed 2 games or 2.5 games, and that is what it is. And if we want to achieve the things that we want to as a team, then the ankle injury and the time I missed, it doesn't matter. It can't be a factor.
Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. Boise State has given up a fair amount of passing yards this year. They get to the quarterback a lot, but how do you feel? What's the best way to attack them? Feel you guys can attack them and kind of loosen up their defense early on?
Yeah, I think just looking at Boise as an entire team, I think that the main focus for us needs to be on sustaining drives and keeping the chains moving, because there's going to be chances for us to attack, in the passing game and in the running game. But they're smart. They're a good defense, and they play to their strengths, right? They try to eliminate big plays because they have such a great rushing attack that it's one of those games where possessions are at a premium, and we need to capitalize any chance we get. And if that means going down the field, taking short little passes, taking what the defense gives for a drive, then that's what it needs to be. But at the same time, when the shot plays are there, when the explosive plays are there, we need to capitalize because they're sound. They try to limit those big plays, and they try to kind of possess the ball and play keep away a little bit. All phases offensively are going to be critical on Saturday.
So we've talked with both you and Coach, or you mentioned about how when things are going well, obviously you guys do well and move the ball, and there's been a lot of times where that hasn't happened. What would you say are the things that are happening when you move the ball well, and then when you're not moving the ball well, like what's happening or maybe what's not happening? What's kind of the difference between those two states for the offense right now?
I mean, each play, each drive is its own situation. I think generally speaking, it's execution by all 11 spots. It feels like at times we almost take turns with, who has the critical error that stalls out the drive. And my main goal is to make sure that that's me. It's never me, moving forward, that I'm doing my job. And then obviously, once you get to that point, then it just needs to continue to move to the rest of the team. Whether it be mental errors, penalties, misassignments, things like that. It's just little errors that, they're little, I say they're little, but obviously they're not, right? They're critical critical errors, in drives that end up stalling something out. And each play is different. Each drive's different. So it's kind of hard to give you too much there. But the focus is just on executing our job every play.
Sir Eric Franson with 106.9 The Fan. How would you assess the morale of the team after the bye week and now getting ready for conference play?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement. I think that the bye week came at a nice time. Good time to recover physically and then also get away a little bit mentally. But just especially leading into Mountain West play, leading into conference play, having a chance to regroup and refocus. That was huge, and I think we're all excited and we're ready to get back out there and compete and help make the changes that we want to see. Help get this team trending back in the right direction.
Follow up to that, how did you spend your Saturday?
I was in Yellowstone National Park actually, which was cool. Went Friday morning with my girlfriend, and then we got back Saturday afternoon. So quick little drive, but it was good just to get in nature and see some pretty cool stuff. I'd never been there before, so that was a lot of fun.
This is Jason Walker with Cache Philly Daily. Just what's your assessment of the team, coming out of this bye week, and where you feel like you guys are at, and what you guys feel like you can accomplish the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think coming out of this bye week, we definitely had a physical week of practice. Coach Darling wanted to make sure that we didn't take a step off the pedal at all. And I think us doing that, Spencer and all the leaders that we have on this team, just making sure that is the message. You know what I'm saying? Like we have no time. We're 1-3, and that's our fault. So like Spencer said, we earned that record. We're not where we want to be, and we're going to improve that. And it's just about the work that we put in this week and now going out and executing it.
Jason Walker again. Just looking at obviously the talk of this week is going to be Ashton Ginty and his ability to run the ball. I mean, looking at that Washington State game, looked like they had him dead to rights on a couple of occasions, and he slipped out of the tackles. Like, how big is it for you guys to be able to not only contain him but then wrap him up once you get to him?
Yeah, he's a good player. Props to him, props to Boise. They have a good thing going for him. We're a team too. I think wrapping him up is going to be one of the biggest things for us, just making sure we get him on the ground and everyone's doing their job. I think if all 1/11th does their job, it'll be a solid game for us and we can, keep him to a minimum.
Ask another one.
Eric Francis, 106.9 The Fan. Forgot to ask Spencer about this, but I asked Coach about the use of tablets on the sidelines to be able to make adjustments in the game. How are you using those, and do you find them helpful?
Yeah, I think we do a good job of using them just to fix anything, whether it be a missed run fit, missed pass fit. They're really important for us to just go ahead and get a quick fix. You can't always see everything perfectly in real time on the field. And just having a second to be able to step back and look at the play in slow motion if you need to, in full speed, it just makes a world of a difference for us.
Ask about the defense, and sometimes where you guys have started out strong, Utah and Temple games, and then kind of faded towards the end of the game. Has there been any consistent themes between those two games as to why that happened? Just any thoughts on that?
Consistent themes. I would just take it on my plate. I think I haven't been pushing hard enough to just finish the game. We're all a team, and at the end of the day, like we all have 1/11s to do, but we all need to stay focused and stay the message we've been talked about is being consistent. And, week in, week out, that's the message through and through. And I think that, we've lacked that defensively through all 4 quarters. And so we plan to go ahead and put on a show consistently all 4 quarters.
How big would you say these next 2 games are? First 2 Mountain West games, 2 teams that are at the top of the standings. Just how important are these next 2 games, both for morale and obviously for season implications?
There are first 2 Mountain West games, looking to get into conference play and really send a message to the conference. Like we said, we haven't been as successful as we wanted to in the first 4, but that's what you get another game for week in and week out. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're the best 2 teams in the conference right now, but everyone's got to play on Saturdays.
Francis again. How did you spend your Saturday?
For me, it was a student athlete, so I did a lot of homework on Saturday. Got to buzz a little bit of film and, really just see what we're looking at this week. So got ahead.